Hello there, it's Jamie, your transgender twin flame. So happy to see you all today. Man, it's been just a wonderful day. I guess I'll just start by going over my day a little bit. I got up at 4 a.m. this morning. Of course, I live in the woods. I'm homeless. Someone stayed with me last night. We had a little weenie roast and they slept in. They actually woke up blaming me because I smoked my one joint that I had. And I had been up like 3 hours by the time they got up. I already had come down here and had coffee and got washed up and stuff. And then they started in they had to get back to the city and this and that. Because I was looking at it, I told him straight up, I said, you have a demon. I mean, it just came to me, right? And he said, oh, maybe so, because he's one of these guys that says he's got a Kundalini awakening and knows all this stuff about astrology. I'm sure that's one of his gifts. He is actually good at it. And he talks about, doing ritual and stuff like that. But of course, I know when somebody's got their head up their ass. I've been doing rituals since I was pretty young. And I did a big one today to release the smoking. I figured out why the angels got me back on the cigarettes, because I wasn't smoking. I didn't want to smoke at all that much, except that I love tobacco. But anyway, they brought me into smoking, and I had discussed it even in a group. And these guys are looking at me like all weird because they consider it, well, why would you start up an addiction and you're in recovery? They consider it in recovery. I don't consider myself in recovery. But some people, feel that if you've ever done anything that you're always in recovery. Of course, that was my past life, I'll just tell you. I'm not like a human anymore. I know I'm a star being. We had wonderful synchronicities today. So anyway, he's like, oh, I got to get to town and this and that. I'll just walk. I was going to give him a bus pass and everything. And I'll just walk. And I'm like, I said, well, dude, I'm going to eat breakfast. And anyway, the angels had gotten me smoking, and I've been smoking. And, I got really addicted right away back on it. I've been actually picking up butts off the ground because I don't have any money. And people started giving me some cigarettes yesterday because I don't ask people for things. And then my bike tire's been blown out since the Pride show the other night, which was worked really well, but it was almost a fiasco for me, the whole Pride business. I was harassed by the president of Pride. I was verbally assaulted harassed 3 times by the president of Pride, and verbally assaulted by my so-called friend, Tom, the vice chair. And he would not leave me alone. I had to tell him to get the fuck away from me. Because he was cussing me out. He snuck up behind me and tried to scare me. I'm glad, and I'm sure they're probably even gladder if they knew what would have happened, that they didn't catch up to me or actually touch me, because they would have been in the hospital straight up, because I'd have put them there. Either way, I'm not into the controlling people, but nobody's going to violate my personal space. This guy gave me a tent, right, and I'm homeless. And he's basically been gossiping about me. He took my private information and shared it. He's actually a convicted felon who got 2 years for embezzling money from dying AIDS patients, which that's all he's here to do in Pride, is embezzle out money from a community organization, as well as, who would hire somebody like this? Well, I'll tell you two. Carol, with a K and a Y, Baker. She's the president of Pride here in Jackson. And, she's the one that harassed me 3 times, and basically they want to make a slave out of somebody. They've been manipulating me, and I'm homeless, have no money. And, they spent massive money to sell beer and line their pockets, I assume. They have another woman named Karen. She called me out in front of a crowd the other day, just abusive shit, narcissistic shit. That's all I can call it. Anyway, and then this guy today, and I realized, fuck, the only reason he even came and camped with me was so he could smoke that joint. He don't give a fuck about nothing else. And I know that because he was sitting here playing his stupid game while we could have been talking, and I was actually talking about some, I thought, interesting, but he didn't give a fuck. And so anyway, back to the cigarette smoking. Today I started talking to Archangel Michael, and basically he told me I'm going to quit smoking now. And I was like, whoa, man. And I go, I want to. And I asked him to help me. And he said, well, you got to quit right now. And I was smoking one, and it was really delicious. And it was a menthol, which I love. And I smoked it and smoked it and smoked it. And I hit it. And I was thinking, just one more. And I heard Michael say, no. And I was like, okay. And so, my ancestral past life knowledge kicked in. I grabbed all of the butts and began praying. I prayed to Michael to take away my addiction. I prayed to take away, my intention was to eliminate addictions for all sentient beings throughout space and time. I went over to the water and I threw all of my cigarettes in there, butts that I had gathered up since morning. And I began to chant and pray, and I sent out some really good vibes. And so anyway, as soon as I I walked around. I had seen a lady there who was giving away Afghans, and she had gave me a couple of Afghans for my tent, to sleep on. And she had been knitting these, and I think she has 100. Some of them are full size, just beautiful, all multicolored, all different colors. And she had sat watching her husband, I guess, as he was dying, for 4 years or so, knitting these things. She had like 100 of them, and she wanted to give them away. And so I took her downtown to some places where she could get rid of them. She's actually going to be homeless herself in a few weeks because of the same narcissistic type stuff. And she was complaining about all these people she went to. And I was pointing out, this minister's a narcissist, his secretary's a narcissist, this minister is crap, this and that, These people are crap, see what these people do, I told her about the shelter, but I explained the faithless shelter, I call it here. They call it interfaith shelter, which is nothing could be farther from the truth. There is no faith whatsoever in that place. I've watched the ministers that come in there. The blind cannot leave the blind, and they're as blind as it gets. Anyway, I did one sermon in there one day when nobody showed up. Now, I feel God's love wherever I go, but those people were so abusive to me, I had a heart attack in there. And then they threw me out into the snow, basically, because I was too tired after cleaning the bathrooms at night to be able to, take care of it. So Laura, the director, basically a dysfunctional and inexperienced little girl, wrote me up, and I'm 59 years old. I have a little problems using the restroom. It takes me quite a while. I'm fine, but it takes me a while, and I was so tired, and I spent time doing my getting a shower that day, which they try to lock you out, where you can't even get to your things at 10 a.m. in the morning. They treat you just like a fucking nursery school. They throw out 3 people a week. They threw me out in the snow with no coat. Anyway, I just out of habit, I was almost grabbed some cigarettes, but I haven't smoked one. I don't intend to ever smoke one again. I've been instructing my innate DNA to activate prana, to activate these new power energies that are coming in, our 7th dimensional powers, shape-shifting, teleportation, and telepathy, which I'm experiencing somewhat already, a lot, but I prayed to come into my full power and sealed myself. I've spoken to Metatron, and I was channeling Mother, Father, God for about an hour or so today, just talking, really understanding. That was before I spoke with Michael to get rid of the cigarette smoking addiction. So me and the lady went downtown. I showed her a place where she could get a meal once a week. They serve a good meal. We went over to where I usually hang out, which is kind of for anyone who's had therapy or anything like that at the community health services. Also, we had coffee, met some wonderful people at the JARC. This is one of their bands, Home of New Vision, it's called. Very positive place. And sat there and drank some coffee, had some donuts, went over to the other place. They said they would take the Afghans, so she went back out to get the Afghans while I had lunch. She came back over, saw some friends. I also saw a man, I gave away the last of my money to him. Saw another man ask me for a bus ticket. I was able to give him one. I had two. I still didn't have the $10 for my bicycle. It's been flat since Saturday. My feet are still hurting a little from walking home in my dress shoes from the Pride Festival. I'm just filling everything in because I think it's fantastic these things have been going on. I never had a life like this in my past life. I sat in a box all day. When I was 51, I sat in a basement in the dark and had decided to drink myself to death. Well, I didn't have much luck at that, obviously. I ended up in AA clawing at the table, basically with DTs. It was the most horrible experience I can remember in my life, and I've had a few, more than a few, including torture and jail over and over, more than I can count, loneliness, homelessness, millionaire parents that were abusive and really never gave a fuck what happened to me. Either way, I mean, I'm very happy now. I understand what happened. Anyway, so she went and got the Afghans. Everybody was so happy, and we were laying them all out on the table. And one of my friends, he's a little bit, I don't even know how to say it. You know, he has some kind of condition where it causes him speech impediment and walking impediment, and he has pain and high blood pressure and really bad temperature or temper that can be provoked into getting into a rage. So I've seen him have to go to the hospital before when his brother provoked him, which his brother is a little, off here or something. I mean, I'm not I don't do that kind of, I don't diagnose people. If I'm trying to heal you, I just try to heal you, or I try to be your friend, or I try to love you. I'm not judgmental. I don't know how to describe when you say somebody's a little off or something, so I'll just say that. We're all off. It's just what brand of off are you, right? So no judgment, and in fact, my heart goes out to those people because they've shown me, even the ones that were horrible to me, the other ones, his brother showed me so much love. And I used to wear a emerald mala, and he asked me for it one day, and I walked over and gave it to him, and it meant a lot to me, and that's why I gave it to him. And he said, "You don't have to do that, you don't have to do that." I said, "I know I don't." And I put it around his neck, and he cried, and he hugged me. And he's one of the sweetest people I've ever met. And he was talking so nice to this lady because she's going to be homeless because of her skank-ass family, and they don't care a fuck what happens to her. And anyway, after that was a wonderful experience. They had bread to give away, so I grabbed a loaf for her and put it in her car. She had more Afghans, but she couldn't dig them out. But she's got a storage right near mine, so I help her. Also gave the Pride people have a storage near mine too. I always watch out for them. I always keep my camera handy too, because I mean, when you expose someone for embezzlement, they probably want to kill me, honestly. Plus, they couldn't make a slave out of me, even worse. You know, they probably want to just whip me, give me 80 lashes and flay my skin off to kill me. You know. I feel the Jackson County Police Department wants to kill me because I'm getting ready to blow them out of the water on a false imprisonment charge as soon as I beat this case. They're trying to give me 4 years for getting robbed myself. Fucking assholes. And anyway, after that, I showed her 2 other churches that serve really good meals and the Faithless Shelter, so if she did have to go there, but I warned her about certain people there, you know, and I explained she would have to take abuse and she would have to be quiet about it if she wanted to stay there. Nice, isn't it, to know that that's the only place for the homeless to go. And actually, I can't go there because they kick me out. And I was assaulted there and told the staff and was threatened with them calling the police on me because I told them I wanted to call the police because they were acting like it's a joke, like everything else they try to schmooze over. They don't give a fuck. But you know, if they call the police on you, they take you straight to jail. If I call the police on them, which I have done about 4 or 5 times, not to them, but since then to other people, the cops will not take them to jail unless you have a badge. They actually told me this because they were like, you can't, they didn't do anything illegal. And then they turned around to this guard who did have a badge, right, and said, oh, unless of course you want to. You know, really smart cop, right? Not very smart. Anyway, got me some dogs going here. My last of my hot dogs, I figure I better eat them. Yes, I am mostly vegetarian, and yes, I got some meat, and no, I don't feel guilty about it, but I have been made aware that the karmic contract of the animals is finished with us, and they no longer are obligated to share themselves in this way with us, so it's time to change our diets, in other words, and start loving the animals as much as they have loved us all this time that we ate them. The only reason there's a scarcity of food or any resource in this world is because of profiteers. There is no other scarcity except for who hoards for profit and controls profit. Now, I still had to get my bicycle out, so I was going to see a pastor at one of the churches, Pastor Carey. I went to his office, and Pastor Carey was busy talking with someone else, so I spoke with that man, who I didn't know too well. Anyway, I introduced Jan, we told him about the Afghans, and then I asked him for the $10.25 that it cost to fix my bicycle tire. I had to put an inner tube in it. It did mess the rim up, but it's okay. I can ride it for now. In fact, it's quite well, except there's just a little bump. It's a little bent. I rode it home. I realized how tired I am of riding that bike. My butt's just sore, and I even got a couple of bumps on there just from riding that stupid thing. Anyway, I think I'm going to start walking a lot more, or riding in a car. It's so much easier, especially now that it's getting colder. I'm hoping to get an apartment next week. Now, I did ask him, I told him, which is true, I haven't asked anyone for money since I got out of jail at the beginning of March. And so I told him that I needed $10.25 to get my bicycle out. And he was like, well, I've seen you riding your bicycle, and he just handed it to me. And I told him, I said, I actually had mentioned to some other people if they could help me fix it, or if they could get some money to fix it, or if they knew anyone. Nobody offered to help me. As much as they'd say, I love you, nobody offered to help. No one fixed the tire. And the guy who had assaulted me at the interfaith shelter, Jimmy, it was actually on the stairs below his place. I don't know if he knew it or not, but had he fixed that, I would have totally taken that as an apology. But no, he walked past it and went about his business as usual. He's the guy that I was threatened by one of the staff at the Faithless Shelter to, it's Jackson Interfaith Shelter, by the way, so-called. Anyway, it was still sitting there flat. It's taken me about 3 days to get it fixed and get the money. But the church there, and that's the church in the square at Jackson, and I swear I'm so bad on names, and I can't remember church names, even worse. I'm bad enough on people names. Anyway, I'm done smoking. I did a huge ritual to release this for Mother Gaia, release this pain of addiction, release this addictive. I spoke with the hungry ghost today. I realized why I was smoking. It's the hungry ghost. I'm still feeling out of lack. I was still, seeing myself as not having those things and looking outside myself for things. But I think this is a huge, important thing for me. To have realized that, and I know the angels did it so I could process for the collective. Now then, after I got my bike, and those people were real nice, I had fun talking with them. I always try to use skillful means to liberate sentient beings, and each person I talk to, I really consider what I'm saying and try to up the beat and up the vibe and everything with them and empower them, because people are unempowered. As I was leaving, I mentioned work, and she said, unfortunately, it's a necessary evil, and I said, no evil is necessary. And she said, I like that. Well, I don't just like it, I love it, and it's the truth. If you tell me that evil is necessary, I'm going to tell you we'll stop being evil, and it won't be necessary. I'm here at Myers, lovely people here. I've said hello to everybody who knows me here. I had to call the police in here once over craziness. 4 people challenged me and yelling at me to get out because I used the women's bathroom, blah, blah, whatever. Okay, so then after I got my bicycle, I walked over to the park where there's a few homeless people staying there, and the girl was there doing angel card readings, and I asked to draw a couple of cards, and I drew Justice, 5 of Fire, 5 of Pentacles, the Star. I have a good idea what it means. She said a few things too. And she said she offered me a place to stay and said I could come to her house anytime. It's called the House of Love, and it's near the Dinner Church and near the Community Action Center, where they are going to give me a voucher to get an apartment. Thank God. And we hugged, and I had never met her before. She had long braids, red, pink, all colors, and a crystal ball, and it was wonderful, wonderful. So I walked through the park, and I played the chimes, and 2 ladies with an old lady in a wheelchair pulled up beside me, and they heard the chimes, which I let my angels play, and believe me, they can play some chimes. Oh my God, it's so impressive. Actually, I could never have done that. And I do it every day. Since I woke up, I stop there. Most people here are afraid to hit them. They might make noise and get outside their programming, the little robotic style. Always walking like this with their phones. That's Jackson, Michigan for you. The prison city. I renamed it the new Valley of the Sun. I intend to change it from Jackson to the new Valley of the Sun. But the nickname now is Prison City. And God told me to tell people that I love you. That's from God. And he said, this is my friend Jamie, who's come to set the prisoners free. And when the cops locked me up in jail, I didn't say a word. And God told me to tell them that. And when I was washing my face and got in there, they asked me, what the hell are you doing in there? That's the first question I always ask you in jail. And there's 4 or 5 guys there, some dreadlocks, some rough-looking characters, mostly bigger than me. And I said, my name is Jamie. And I said, God told me to tell you, I love you. And I've sent my friend Jamie to set the prisoners free. So I'm going to leave you with that, because I come from Orion. And we're done with the slavery system. Done. Finished. So be it. I love you, I love you, I love you. I love you.